Okay, so are you ready to dive into this Nintendo lawsuit? Everyone's talking about it.
Definitely, it's gotten crazy.
This whole thing with Pokemon and this new game, Palworld, it seems wild, right?
Yeah, it's huge. And the thing is, everyone's making it about Pokemon, but it's way bigger than that.
Right. Like, is Nintendo really trying to say no one else can make a monster-catching game?
Well,
Ever?
that's the question, isn't it? I mean, this lawsuit, it's about way more than just these two games or even just video games.
Okay, so for anyone who hasn't heard about this yet, what's the deal?
So basically, you've got this new game, Palworld, right? It's gotten super popular.
It blew up online. People were saying it's what Pokemon should be,
Yeah,
like way more freedom.
exactly. It's got the monster catching and battling like Pokemon, but it also has crafting and like building your own bases and even multiplayer stuff.
Oh, yeah, and you can give your pal a rocket launcher, which is insane. And everyone loved that, which is probably why Nintendo got a little nervous.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? So Nintendo sees this game blowing up and they decide to sue.
And we dug into that Forbes article you sent over, and it sounds like they're claiming patent infringement, not copyright.
Exactly.
Yep.
This is important because it means they're not saying Palworld ripped off Pokemon's characters or story or anything like that.
It's about the game mechanics themselves.
Yeah.
Like, how dare you make a game where you catch monsters and they level up and battle each other?
Which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it. I mean, those are pretty standard mechanics in tons of games.
Yeah. Like, what's next? Are they going to sue anyone who makes a game with jumping and shooting?
It seems a little extreme, right? I mean, imagine if one company could own the concept of a first-person shooter or a platformer.
It would stifle creativity like crazy.
For sure. And that's why this case is so worrying for a lot of people. Because if Nintendo wins this, it could set a precedent.
So basically, they're trying to patent the very concept of catching and training monsters in a video game.
It seems that way, but the thing is you can't patent an idea that broad. It has to be something specific.
So what is it then?
That's the million-dollar question. The article said that even the creators of Palworld don't know what specific patent Nintendo is going after.
Wait, really? They're being sued, and they don't even know why.
It's wild, right?
That seems pretty shady if you ask me.
It's definitely unusual, and a lot of legal experts think that Nintendo might be trying to use their size and influence to bully a smaller company.
Especially since Palworld was such a hit right out of the gate.
Yeah, it's hard not to see it that way.
So where does that leave us? What's next?
Well, now we wait and see what Nintendo's next move is. What exactly are they alleging? And how will Palworld respond?
And then there's the question of Microsoft. Microsoft. What do they have to do with all this?
Well, it turns out Microsoft was pretty involved in Palworld's development, like behind the scenes.
Really?
Yeah, they helped with marketing and even championed some of Palworld's unique features.
Huh, interesting. I didn't realize they were that invested in it.
They were, and it paid off big time. The article mentioned that Microsoft support helped propel Palworld to the top of the charts.
Wow, so they're kind of in this mess too now, aren't they?
Exactly. If Nintendo wins this case, it could have a ripple effect on Microsoft's ability to support other innovative games in the future.
It's like a warning shot to anyone who tries to compete with Nintendo.
Right, and that's why this whole thing has such huge implications. It's not just about two games, it's about the future of the entire gaming industry.
So what you're saying is, if a company as big as Nintendo can basically say, we own this genre, that could scare off a lot of smaller developers.
Absolutely, especially those who might be afraid to take risks or challenge the big players.
Because who wants to pour their heart and soul into a game only to get sued by a giant corporation?
Exactly. It could create a situation where we see less innovation and fewer truly original games.
We'd be stuck with sequels and reboots forever.
Pretty much. So, yeah, it's a scary thought.
So what can Palworld even do at this point? It sounds like they're up against a wall.
Well, they've said they're going to fight back, but it's definitely a David versus Goliath situation.
Didn't the article mention that Palworld's creators are like a tiny indie studio?
Yeah, they're completely dwarfed by Nintendo's resources and legal team.
It's like bringing a slingshot to a tank fight.
Pretty much.
Uh,
But hey, stranger things have happened. They've got the internet on their side, and a lot of people are rooting for them.
that's true. Gamers love an underdog story.
And this case really is striking a nerve. I mean, people are fired up about this.
Yeah, I've seen the forums. People are calling for boycotts of Pokemon. Some are even sending donations to Palworld to help with their legal fees.
It's become a real rallying cry for creative freedom in gaming.
It's amazing how much this whole thing has blown up. We started by talking about rocket launchers.
Wow.
Now we're talking about boycotts and corporate bullying.
It's wild, right? It just goes to show you how much video games matter to people.
For sure. And it's not just about entertainment either. This case is raising some serious questions about intellectual property and the power dynamics in the gaming industry.
Absolutely. And those are questions that we need to be asking ourselves as gamers and as a society.
So where do we go from here? What are the key things we should be watching for as this case unfolds?
Well, the first thing we need is information. What exactly is Nintendo alleging? What specific patent are they claiming Palworld infringed upon?
Right, because without that, it's all just speculation.
Exactly. We also need to keep an eye on how Palworld responds. Do they lawyer up and prepare for a long legal battle? Or do they try to find a settlement?
And what about Microsoft? Are they going to step in and help Palworld?
That's the million-dollar question. If Microsoft throws their hat in the ring, things could get really interesting.
It would be a huge turning point in the case for sure.
Imagine Microsoft's legal team going head-to-head with Nintendo's. It would be legendary.
This thing is nuts. So we've got corporate drama, legal battles, and the future of video games all rolled into one.
It's a lot to unpack. And we're not even done yet.
What else is there?
Well, there's this other layer to it that we haven't even touched on yet, and it's about the games themselves. Like, even if Palworld wins this lawsuit, even if they get to keep making their game,
Do they really stand a chance against Pokemon? I mean, that's the 800-pound gorilla in the room, right?
it's a good question, and honestly, it's one that a lot of gamers are asking. Because, yeah, Palworld has cool ideas. It's got guns and crafting and all that. But
Doesn't have that Pokemon magic, does it?
right. It's hard to compete with that. Like, Pokemon isn't just a game. It's an entire universe. It's got decades of history and world building and characters that people love.
Not to mention the nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone has their favorite Pokemon and their childhood memories of playing the game.
Exactly. So how do you replicate that? How do you bottle that lightning in a bottle? It's tough.
It's like trying to start a band and expecting to be the Beatles on day one, you know?
Pretty much. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. Remember when Name a popular game that innovated on an existing genre came out? Everyone called it a genre the game was based on ripoff.
Yeah, but look at it now. It's a phenomenon in its own right.
Exactly. They took those criticisms, they listened to the players, and they iterated, and eventually they created something truly special.
So you're saying Palworld can still pull it off?
They've got a shot. And this lawsuit might actually help them in a weird way.
How so?
Well, for one thing, it's given them a ton of free publicity. I mean, everyone's talking about them now.
True. Any publicity is good publicity, right?
To a point.
Yeah.
But it's more than that. This whole thing has painted them as the underdog, the little guy fighting against the big bad corporation.
And people love to root for the underdog.
Exactly. So now they have this platform and this huge wave of support. It's up to them to make the most of it.
By making a killer game.
Exactly. They need to prove that they're more than just a Pokemon clone with guns. They need to show the world that Palworld can be something truly unique and special.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's safe to say that this whole Nintendo Palworld thing is about way more than just two games.
Absolutely. It's about the future of gaming. It's about creativity and innovation and whether the little guy can still make it in a world dominated by giants.
It's about rocket launchers on Pikachus.
Well, yeah, there's that too. But seriously, this case raises some really important questions that we need to be talking about.
For sure. So what's your takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about as they fire up their consoles tonight?
I think the biggest thing is to stay informed. Keep an eye on this case because it could have ripple effects throughout the entire industry.
And support the games and the developers that you believe in.
Absolutely. Vote with your wallets. Show these companies that you want more innovation, more creativity, and more games that push the boundaries of what's possible.
Well said. And on that note, this has been a wild ride. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Pokemon Palworld and the ever-evolving landscape of video games.
My pleasure. Until next time.